Welcome back and welcome to another movie reviews video. I make movie reviews every Sunday here and they are always spoiler free. I also always leave timestamps in the description box below, so if there is a particular movie you want to hear my thoughts on, you can scroll to that time, and I will leave last week's movie reviews video linked up here in case you are looking for something specific to see at the movies. It might be something that I've talked about last week. So I saw 4 movies in cinemas this week. One of those I have made a whole book versus movie video about, which will be the next video to go up after this one. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but I'll go into more detail in that book versus movie video. So the first film I saw in cinemas this week was The Hustle, which is the new movie starring Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson when they are con artists. So basically Anne Hathaway is quite a famous and refined British con artist living in France, I believe. And she comes across Rebel Wilson, who is obviously an Australian con artist living in the United States. They kind of get together through various circumstances on both their parts, and as you can imagine, hijinks ensue. It was all right. I think I was expecting a little bit more than I should have done. I like both these actresses and the trailer looks funny, but it is kind of one of those films where you see most of the funny bits in the trailer. I found myself getting a little bit distracted. I think maybe I would recommend waiting for this one to come to streaming, or to come to be able to borrow from your library or your Redbox, or however you choose to see your movies, not in the cinema. I laughed out loud a couple of times. There were other people in the cinema. There wasn't a whole lot of laughing out loud, whereas last week I talked about The Long Shot and there was lots of laughing out loud. So yeah, it was all right, but not great. Then I went to see Amazing Grace, which I thought was more of a general documentary about Aretha Franklin, but what it is it's actually a whole load of footage that was taken when she recorded her album Amazing Grace in this church with this gospel choir in 1972 in Southern California. Warner Brothers were planning to make a movie all about it. I think it was meant to be a for TV movie, but basically what happened is the director was new to filming this kind of thing, didn't use any clapperboards, and so had 20 hours of footage that he couldn't match up the video and the audio. He didn't know in what order things went, and the film project just basically got abandoned until it was picked up by its current director. Aretha Franklin's one of the producers, so presumably it was started to be put together before her death. But the footage itself is so interesting. There's no kind of commentary, there's some written stuff on the screen, but we basically just see the raw footage. It's not the best quality of footage, don't go into it expecting it to be this high quality documentary. However, I thought it was a really special film. I thought it was really exciting to see what it was like inside this church at the time that this was being recorded, at the time that Aretha Franklin was so big. The reaction that we see in the audience, the reaction that we see from the choir conductor, from the minister taking the church service, the difference between day 1 and day 2 based on kind of word of mouth from people having been at day 1. It was just, I thought it was a really special experience. This is definitely one I recommend. If it is still playing where you are, go and see it. It's really impressive to see it on the big screen, and it's really something different to put yourself into that situation that we would know nothing about had this footage not have been put together in the way it had been. This has been open for a little while, but we haven't got it in like my movie theatre. It was in one of the indie movie theatres in Denver for a week. And so the fact that it came to my movie theatre, again, only for a week, I was obviously going to jump on the chance to go and see it, and I recommend that you go and see it as well. And then I went to see Detective Pikachu. Now, don't really know anything about Pokemon. I could point out who Pikachu is, that's about it. However, I'd seen quite a few really positive reviews about it, saying that, you know, you think it's going to be a bit of a silly film, but you have to remember it is a film about a Pokemon detective set in a Pokemon world. And if you kind of go into it thinking about that, it's actually a really funny film, and I agree with a lot of the reviews that have said that. It's obviously a bit of a fantasy world, similar to if you go and watch a Disney film, or similar to if you go and watch a Marvel film. It's something that is you know, you have to suspend your disbelief going in. It's a bit of a family film, which is quite nice. And yeah, Pikachu's really funny. He's voiced by Ryan Reynolds, so you get that same sort of snarky tone as you get when you're watching Deadpool. The guy who is the sort of other lead actor in this film is also very good. I liked him in the trailers, and so I knew I would be able to hopefully stand a whole movie with him. I went to see it in Dolby format, and that's another reason I chose to see that this week rather than kind of bumping it down my list to see it at a later date, because I do enjoy seeing films in Dolby format. This one was a very quiet screening. There was me and 2 other people in the massive Dolby theatre. I don't know how many seats it's got, but it's a lot. And so I think it was a bit too loud, because I think maybe they turned it up for a full audience rather than an audience of 3. I think the fact that people have an idea that the film's going to be pretty bad or pretty ridiculous really shows by the fact that there was only 3 of us seeing this film. Maybe everybody went opening weekend, I don't know. But I think that it was nice to escape into that world for 2 hours. It kept my attention the whole time. I was gripped by the storyline. I laughed at it. I believed the peril that was coming up for our main characters was really going to happen. And yeah, I would recommend it. I think it was a pretty good film if you are into kind of cartoons, or yeah, your superhero movies, your Disney movies. I think it's a good one to watch alongside some of those. I'm not saying it's, you know, in the league of those movies, but I thought it was really good, and I really enjoyed Ryan Reynolds in it. There's a good couple of twists along the way as well. The fact that it's Detective Pikachu, it's based on a comic book, so I suppose maybe some people will see the twists coming, but I didn't see them coming, and I liked that. Then the last film that I saw in cinemas this week, I am literally just back from having seen, and this is the one that I have a whole book versus movie video on, so I go into much more depth in that film. So if you want a more detailed review, hold your horses and wait for that one. It will be coming up this week. The Sun is Also a Star, which is based on the novel by Nicola Yoon, which was one of my favourite novels the year that it came out. And I recently re-listened to the audiobook of it, so I will be ready to go and see the film. As just a film review in itself, rather than a book versus movie, I was really disappointed in it. I had high hopes for it. I enjoyed the book so much. I thought it was going to be great. It's definitely one of those films where the main things happen in the trailer. So if you've seen the trailer for this film, you get the idea of what it's going to be like and what's going to happen in the film. So really, watch the trailer. That's all you need to do. I was disappointed. It felt like it was a bit of a lazy film. There was some issues with focusing. There was some issues with an overuse of a shot of New York City with music playing over it that very, very slowly panned out and then tilted the other way. Like, if all that had been cut, the movie would have been about 20 minutes shorter. The other thing they did was whenever there was kissing involved, again, it would be an extended shot of the kissing with like a zooming in or out or a tilting and some music playing, and that was really off-putting, and I was yawning most of the way through. Now I know it was Friday night when I saw this, but you know, I'm not yawning right now, am I? And that was like 2 hours ago, so yeah, it was just a bit disappointing. I also had some issues with the actress playing the main character, Natasha. I had some issues with the kind of decision on these kind of out of focus backgrounds that they used. I don't know if it was like an arty thing to show that the focus was them and the universe was revolving around them for a day and everything else was out of focus, but it meant that in some shots parts of them were out of focus as well. So their main part would be in focus and then their feet would be fuzzy, or his arm would be fuzzy, or like the top of the head would be fuzzy. Yeah, at the very end there's a scene that takes place outside an airport, and it's supposedly one of the New York airports because they got a yellow cab to get there, but it looks far too clean for it to be a New York airport. I'm like, which airport is that? It looks a little more like LAX. I haven't looked into this yet, but I highly doubt that it's a New York airport because it's very clean and very quiet. Like, New York airports are never that clean or quiet. And then, yeah, there was little things like, oh, how did their phones stay charged the whole time? And like, why when somebody's kind of called their daughter 15 times have they not then called the police? And why is there no like security measures going into a sort of embassy type building where you go to talk about immigration and stuff? Don't get me wrong, the film does really great things for seeing members of marginalized groups and from different backgrounds and people dealing with immigration issues, and it shows that on the screen and it gives them and their situations a voice. I'm absolutely behind that, but it could have been done better. So my recommendation on this one is go and read the book. The audiobook was fantastic. The book itself has some really pretty features in. I've done both, and yeah, go read the book and then listen to the audiobook rather than spending time and money going to see the film in the cinema. As I say, that book versus movie video should be the next video up on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed so that lands in your subscription feed. As always, if there is a particular movie you would like to hear my thoughts on, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I will be back with another movie reviews video for you next Sunday, and that book versus movie video for you on Tuesday. So I will see you then. Bye.